Welcome to our interviews. We're hoping that helps you get the word out about your candidacy. Why don't you tell us who you are?
Sure. My name is Nathan Fennessy. I'm currently serving as an at-large counselor, and I'm running for re-election.
Where do you live in Concord?
I live on School Street. I live basically on the backside of Concord High.
There you go. So you hear the bells go off in the morning and the bus is coming.
And the trash retrieval.
Yes, very early.
And snow removal.
Cheer up, I lived there when they were building the addition. That was great fun. How long have you lived in Concord, Nathan?
I lived in Concord about a decade.
Decade. Where'd you live before that?
I was in D.C. before, but I was born and raised in Dover, New Hampshire.
There we go. And in addition to being a current at-large city councilor, what civic and community activities have you been involved in here?
I'm a coach for youth basketball and youth baseball. I previously was on the school board for one term. I'm on the Access to Justice Commission. I was appointed by the New Hampshire Supreme Court.
Other than that, you're not busy.
Other than that, I'm not busy at all.
And city council meetings are very short and right to the point on every issue.
Well, we try to.
Well, the council does a great job here, top to bottom, everybody. Listen, we gave you some questions in advance that are of interest to the business community. This is one you've already dealt with, but growing the tax base is a big issue, and it's a large problem. What ideas and what thinking do you have about what we should be doing?
Sure. I mean, that's one of the big things that I'm focused on this time around. We've seen since COVID that the share of the property tax base that the residential taxpayers is paying has gone up as compared to our commercial. So, one of the things that we did back in April, the council approved the city manager's recommendation to reorganize our community development department. We used to have an economic development director. When that person left, I think we may have lost sight of a little bit of our focus on economic redevelopment. So that's one piece. Second piece is continuing to focus on public and private partnerships. The investments we made up at Exit 17, I think, have had a tremendous impact on the development of that, which not only impacts city-wide taxpayers, but has a significant positive impact on residents of Pennacook who pay the highest school property tax rates in the city. So those are kind of the big things that I'm focused on.
More of that at a larger scale, at a faster pace, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I think by one back of the envelope, I think we need to build about 10 of those new Mazda dealerships every year in order to keep us growing at 2 to 3% roughly.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the big thing is what can you redevelop? We don't have a lot of greenfield sites remaining, so taking the sites that we have and either increasing the density or improving the economic performance of the owners of the property.
Leads right into another issue. Employers can't get employees. Employees don't come here because they can't find housing they can afford. Building costs are through the roof. Interest rates are high. Given that land's some small part of that cost of housing, what ideas do you have that the city could do to help increase more affordable housing for families and other folks?
So I think we've done a number of things in the past year or two. I mean, we've got a lot of different projects coming online, whether it's the Pennacook Landing Phase 2, the rail yard. We've got a bunch of additional projects at Pembroke Road also that's coming online. So one of the things that the mayor did, I think it was 2 years ago, is he set up the fee committee, which I believe you appeared in front of, and it was looking at how do we compare with respect to our development fees as opposed to some of our neighboring jurisdictions who are competing with us. So, we made a few changes there. I'm open to taking another look at those, but there's a lot of things that we can't control, as you mentioned, like interest rates. We can't control that, and financing is obviously very much a driver of whether these projects can succeed or not. So, taking a look, we've got some ability, with the project that's happening up at the old Congregational Church. We just approved a 79A, I think, or 79E, I should say. So looking at those sorts of opportunities to help where we can, continue to work with the coalition, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute, to create as much housing supply as we can at all levels. So not only affordable workforce housing, but also plenty of market rate, and trying to make sure when we are approving these market rate projects that we push to the extent that we can, that it's feasible to get affordable or workforce housing units in there.
A lot of communities have done a great job making it a trade-off bargain. If we're giving you the 79E or some other development incentive, there's a certain number of units that are rented at so much of the median income. I know that the new rail yards project has a lot of that, and it'll be interesting to see if that helps us in a significant way. A lot of housing being built, and certainly a lot has been approved lately.
Correct, and there's even more potential projects in the pipeline. Obviously, there's been talk about what's going to happen with the old Monitor property. We've got potentially new stuff happening at the mall. So continuing to, I think, again, in housing, sometimes the margins can be very small. So looking where we can to make sure that, on those market rate projects, if we can get some affordable units, that's going to continue to help everything and generate as much supply as we can.
Let's turn to another issue you know a lot about in the Monitor recently, something you've dealt with. We've got lots of groups that have worked really hard on the homelessness issue. I think everybody sees it's growing in Concord as it is in other cities. There isn't a big homeless problem in Hopkinton or Bow. Those problems migrate to Concord. So far, there's no regional or county coordination where they're helping Concord solve some of their problems. We've got, like I said, great groups working on this, but we don't seem to be getting ahead of the problem. You have people who feel unsafe in some neighborhoods. You have homeless people who are mixing with other folks in the homeless population who shouldn't probably mix. Lots of folks putting heart and soul and shoulder to the wheel. Are we doing enough? Is there a solution? Should the city take the lead? What's your thinking there?
Sure. So there's not one solution to end the problem. I think it's a series of different solutions that are going to help. So on the public safety side, one of the big things that we need to tackle is we've got a significant deficit in our police force. So we need to do what we can to both attract and retain more police officers so that we can provide the level of service and the level of coverage for the city that we need to deter some of this activity. I think the homeless issue is a challenge because you've got some people obviously who are trying very hard. Something bad has happened to them in their life, and they need that handout to get back on the right track. And then we have another universe of people who are either saddled with some sort of addiction or are choosing to sort of be off the grid to some extent. And I think that's the more challenging population. We need to, number one, is start to figure out who they all are, which I think for the first time we do, and then help to track them to, when there's an issue that comes up. One of the things I'm excited about is that we funded a social worker in the police department. So using that as a resource, when that person runs into trouble, knowing where they are, if they're not showing up, finding, the camp that they were at or the new placement that they may be in to see what we can do to facilitate what we can.
Should all these different groups working, everybody tries to work together, the city has a task force. Should the city take primary responsibility or take the lead on this issue, you think?
I think right now, we're probably doing the best from a coordination standpoint that we have, at least in the time that I've been on the council. We've got lines of communication that really didn't exist before. So I'd like to continue on that path now. I think as long as we're communicating with everybody, all of the different stakeholders, both the coalition, the police department, so that we know who everybody is and we sort of know where everybody is going. And when there are opportunities to get them in placements, to take advantage of those. If there's an opportunity to get them into some sort of a treatment program, to do that. And I think, we're not going to make it all go away at once, but, 1,
Progress.
2, 3, 5 people at a time, I think we can start to make the scale of the issue that much smaller.
You talked about staffing the police force. One of the great things about the Works is they let a few of us in at 5:30 in the morning, so we see a lot of the officers on the beat come in, and I think we're down like 17 positions.
19.
19. Does that mean we need to pay more?
So there's actually something on the agenda for tonight where there's about, I think it's about $500,000 of sort of a retention program that we're going to be looking at. I think it's a great idea. Obviously, if what we're doing now is not enough to attract and retain people, then usually money's part of it, but it may not be the only solution. So it's understanding what is it about the job that is not attracting and retaining people, or what is it about our department and focusing on those things.
Good luck on that. Hey, let's talk about tourism. You know, some communities like Portsmouth 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it was unsafe to be on Ceres Street after 7 o'clock at night because the knife fights between the Navy and the Air Force. The city's invested every year with the chamber, direct appropriations or in town or pro Portsmouth, whatever they call it over there. Do you think tourism can help? And if so, should it be a major focus of the city and the chamber? And if so, what would you think the city's role should be?
Sure. So I think already there's plenty of people stopping off the exit. In the summer, the winter, I certainly see plenty of cars from Connecticut, Rhode Island. The question is, how do we get them to stay longer? And so I think it's obviously the city can play a role. I think the state also needs to help play a role. I mean, some of the biggest attractions we have in the city are state attractions, such as the Capitol. And so working with them to make those facilities open on the weekend would be a first step. Second would be through the I-93 process, the expansion, the intended expansion, making sure that we position ourselves and what the downtown looks like so that we attract people off the interstate so that they come and come to the Works or wherever to get something
All
to
the
eat.
great coffee shops. I'm a landlord to 4 of them, so it's just that they're open at 5:30. Any of you tenants out there, I love all your coffee shops. I come to all of them. The only one open at 5:30 is the Works. That's sort of a related question. A lot of people who say, you remember when Hotel Concord got their permission for their sign and their colors, and as we always do in Concord, we make a decision, but then we keep debating it for a decade afterwards. There's some people who think that's great, some not so great. Some think we need to light up all the back side, because when the city was built and developed, of course, the river was the sewer. You put your back door to the sewer, not the front door. Do you think we need to make efforts to increase, like Manchester's done, the lighting or the visibility or paint, or what do you think we should do to try and get more of those cars that are stuck in traffic to come off on a Sunday night or a Monday night?
I was going to say, Sunday night, last night, there was a lot of traffic.
We needed them just all come down Main Street and go to every restaurant, right?
Well, I think a fair amount went down Main Street last night. I don't know if they all stopped. But my first exposure to Concord actually was driving from Dover to my grandparents in Claremont. So I used to drive, and the two things that stuck out to me were the Capitol Dome and the Ralph Pill building. We need to, the backside of a shopping plaza is not the most attractive thing to get you off the interstate. So I think particularly as we start to develop Store Street more, hopefully as soon as that parking garage comes down, we really pay attention to not only what things look like from Main Street, but what they look like from the interstate. And whether it's lighting, whether it's architectural features, whether it's murals, we need to really be focused, because that's really the gateway to the city. Both the 393 coming in from the east and I-93 coming from the south.
Okay, a little bit of a tangential question. There's some talk, I know the city manager's out getting consultants about how big. Do we go big or go home with an idea of crossing over the highway and the river to the beautiful land over on the east side? Good idea?
So I supported the funding for the deck park because I'm not sure if it's the best idea, but I'm certainly interested in exploring it, because one of the things that I find most frustrating when I moved to Concord was the disconnect between Main Street and the river. And so if there's a way we can do that that makes sense, then I think it would be great.
Good luck, Godspeed, have fun at your council meetings. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.